even with us idiots reading this, it's still a rough chapter.
I must say, yeah. I would say it's not like that I enjoy this chapter, but I mean, it's still the divisive chapter, right? It's what
very haunting.
It could very well be the one that's made the biggest impression, at least.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in my case because I am one of those people with no self-control, so I spoiled this chapter, at least the broad strokes of it, for myself on the first time through. So I think that definitely lessened the impact. But what was odd was that I felt it a lot more the second time around. I think the reason is because at that time I really had an appreciation for how much George builds up to this chapter throughout the whole book of A Storm of Swords. You definitely, and I think you mentioned this, Duncan, on a reread recently. You get this sense of like inexorable marching toward doom in the chapters before this, and that really is what makes it hit so hard, is the sort of inevitability of it. I think that like just things were on this downward spiral, and it really just culminates here.
Yeah, I think Martin uses this kind of sensory language to convey this doom that's growing inside Catelyn. Just the descriptions of the food are sort of stomach churning. The like maggots crawling across the stringy beef, and the hot oppressive environment of the twins. It just feels suffocating, and the pounding of the drums, and how it just kind of, after a while, the drums have actually stopped, but she still hears the poundings. It's her own heartbeat. Just the feelings that it conveys. It's beyond any kind of political language that you might associate with this event. You know, you might be able to pick out certain political things that are happening that you could predict it, but it's more just this unconscious feeling that something terrible is about to happen that I think is so effective.
Yeah, and I think it's like a lot of people, Storm of Swords is their favorite book, and this is part of the reason why is he's just at the top of his game when it comes to writing in this book, and we get a number of really good chapters like this.
It's sort of the big thing, I guess, apart from Ned being beheaded, it's the thing that people always talk about as it being this like completely new kind of fantasy. The fact that he's not afraid to kill his heroic characters, because in any other fantasy, Robb would be the hero. He would triumph over the bad guys. But this, it's such a subversion, and it kind of unmoors us from the narrative. Like everything feels destabilized after this, because it felt like we were on a specific trajectory. He was going to go north. He was going to free the Northmen from the.
He was on his hero's journey. He was just going to have his struggles. That's all.
He was going to set the world to right, and this just cut everything apart. Arya was going to finally be reunited with them, but that was cut short. So it felt like it was going this specific direction, and this kind of tore it all apart. And everyone's kind of scrambling to. I mean, the North hasn't really recovered from this. Bolton's still in charge. Everything's just sort of scattered to the winds.
I mean, how do you recover? I think I've said this before. So like I had Ned's death kind of spoiled for me after I think it was like the second episode of the show. Like after the first episode, I was like, this is really cool. And then I watched the second episode, and I remember going on some site, people were talking about it, and someone was like, yeah, man, I can't wait until Ned Stark gets beheaded or whatever. And I was like, wait, what? So in that process, I went and got the book and started reading like right away, and then I burned through them pretty quickly. But I did know, like, just like going through like the wiki and stuff online, like I heard like the term Red Wedding, but I didn't really know what it was. So like once this chapter kind of started, I was like, uh-oh. I'm like, this is a wedding. Like everyone talks about like this red wedding's like some crazy thing. I think it was definitely, I was able to appreciate it better, kind of going back and reading it than the first time. The first time was more of just like, what the fuck is going on, running through it so quickly. But
yeah, I think it's that Arya piece of it that for me makes it so devastating, is that idea that her whole arc essentially for this book and the one before has been trying to get back to her family, and that's been the driving force of so much of what she's done. And it's so devastating when you find out not only is that not going to happen, but all these sort of, as you mentioned, Duncan, like these goals to put things to right are all just going to go spiraling out of control, and chaos or evil or just whatever is going to be what takes over.
I guess I have had a different take on it. I wasn't spoiled for this chapter at all. I didn't actually look at any sites before I was like done with the books, but I did sense something coming in a way, and I don't know. I never saw Robb as a hero because, first of all, he didn't have a chapter and it was a third person, everything. It kind of didn't make sense from a narrative perspective to see him. I would always assume that someone else like like John would end up being the true hero of the story because he got a point of view chapters. So in that sense, it didn't really hit home like a change of the storyline, just a natural conclusion to a lot of stupid things that people did. And yeah, it was devastating for a lot of reasons, but not so much in the loss of Rob, even though that might be an unpopular opinion.
Well, it's more devastating for what Catelyn goes through, I think. Just her slowly losing her mind and just having seen all of her children die and placing all of her hope in Rob. Like her last vestige of sanity is tied to the fact that he'll survive.
Yeah, and that last line of hers, though, like even as she's dying, like she's thinking like, oh no, they're cutting my hair. Like she goes back to something kind of very mundane almost, but like it means a lot to her.
Ned loved my hair.
Ugh. No, Ned loves my hair. Like it's kind of, she's still getting over the fact that he's gone, right?
And I also, I don't know if I noticed this before, but when she puts the knife to Jingle Bell's throat, she has a flashback to the assassin putting the knife to her throat. So it's almost like she's shifting around roles, and she's started to become, I guess, because in a lot of ways Catelyn is always imprisoned or boxed in various ways. Like she can offer counsel to all of these men that control her life, but ultimately she can't really have much effect over her life. It's kind of, she's told what to do, where to go, who to marry, to mother children, all that. So the fact that she's grabbed the knife and is trying to affect events through her own agency, I don't know if that transfers somehow into Lady Stoneheart becoming this murderous maniac with the knife. But I thought that sense of shifting from the victim to the aggressor.
It does seem like such a futile and desperate move, though, right? It doesn't seem like it's having any kind of impact. It's just sort of a desperate act to try to eke out some kind of vengeance, which again I think is telling in terms of what her goals are. It's purely vengeance based.
Do you think if she had managed to grab hold of Walder, that would have meant something? Or do you think his family would just be like, well, time to finally get rid of the old man? I
assume there was men around Walder himself that would have stopped her.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's she says, like, he's not close enough or whatever, but I do wonder if maybe...
I don't think they would have. I think they would have let the old man die because one of them would take over.
Right.
I think there's a lot of love lost between the Freys. There's so many...
I mean, if they had a say in it, yes. But I'm assuming that he has.
It's mostly troops.
Yes, that his troops, he would have enough control over them to, say that they should lay down their arms or whatever.
How many so I don't know. There's so many Freys, but like how do they keep this a secret? Like how did none of the Freys or any of their men or any Bolton men or like someone who has a fucking conscience kind of be like, we know what's going down. Like, did they not tell the common soldiers as much about what's going on? I mean, like, the Bolton men obviously have to know enough to start attacking, the rest of the Northmen, and really the Freys too. Like, they you can't go from like, well, these are our allies. Okay, in 5 minutes we're gonna go kill them. Like, you might end up with a bunch of people that don't agree. So, do you think that they like maybe weeded people out who weren't into that? I mean, it's a large army, so. It just seems like there's so many. It's for the narrative. Like this is how it has to happen. But I do wonder how they would maybe compartmentalize this. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it might have to do something with a bit of propaganda. I mean, it's been weeks and weeks since they heard about that, and
like how Rob's half a wolf and all this shit.
Yeah. So I'm guessing essentially that as soon as they knew that the wedding had happened with Jane and everything, and as soon as the deal was struck with Roose, they started preparing the troops on what to do and what not. And I think that training could do a lot at least. And prepare.
I feel like another story with like in a different bit of fantasy, right? The brave Frey soldier who has a conscience, and he's like, the center of his own different story, on the eve of a battle, hears that they're going to betray someone and marches out to warn them, or, that doesn't happen here, but yeah.
It doesn't surprise me as much with the Freys, just, I guess, because they might not know Rob as much, and he offended them so deeply, and I guess if they kept the knowledge to just like key players in the family and then let the generals know, and then the soldiers just follow the general's orders. But it did surprise me with the Boltons, like the fact that there weren't any Bolton troops that wouldn't harbor doubts about betraying their liege king, their sire, or breaking guest right? Yeah, like even the stigma of guest right and all that. Yeah, and kinslaying.
But there's still a difference. You know, we've seen the Dreadfort afterwards. It's not a nice place to be, and I'm thinking it wasn't a really not nice place to be when Roose was lord there.
He's just kind of stuck there, which is kind of why I think maybe someone would be more likely to be like, maybe I can go be a Stark man by telling them what's going down.
Do you think that, or do you think that fear of the Boltons has sparked like a sort of
probably
loyalty? Or
they're way too afraid. They know Roose would hunt them down.
Yeah.
I mean,
we see Bolton like weeding out various factions, like soldiers loyal to Robb. He sends all those men to Duskin Down.
Yeah,
right.
So I guess he's been doing this for a while. Also, I guess a lot of the soldiers that have been with Bolton have been with him since like the first battle against the Lannisters, against Tywin.
Yeah.
So they haven't actually seen,
because he doesn't have a huge force here, right?
Won.
Like the Bolton troops are not like they're not like 10,000 men. It's just, you know,
they've just been hanging out at Harrenhal, so they have a very different perspective on the war and where their loyalties lie.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all the things you guys mentioned, and just the fact of how much resentment over history there has been between Boltons and Starks. It is strange that no one in that camp would say anything, but yeah, that's just suspension of disbelief for the sake of the narrative. But there's certainly enough there to say that the majority of people would, first of all, just be predisposed against the Starks to begin with, and also just, you know, recognizing the incompetencies that Robb has displayed of late. It would be easy to see why they would want to remove him.
Yeah, and Tywin's victory in the south. Like, it's clear that Robb has lost the war. Like, if he was doing much better, maybe there'd be some reluctance to go against him, but there's just nothing left of the North Kingdom, it seems, in the Riverlands.
Yeah, that's definitely also the fact that he's lost the North, lost Winterfell. Yeah, I think that's definitely also a factor. You lose faith in him, and yeah, I think it's just, as you said, a big combination of all the things.
When you were talking about hearing about the Red Wedding before you read it, I think I did a similar thing. Like, when I started at Game of Thrones, I was sort of trolling through Wikipedia and not really understanding anything, but just like seeing these vague terms referenced. And I saw the Red Wedding and I started to read a little bit of it, and then I quickly closed it down because it was very spoilery. But even the name there's something really scary about it, because it implies
blood,
not just like the red color, the blood on like a white wedding gown, but also the sort of ritualized format that implies, that it's almost like this very formalized massacre. Which it kind of is, because you see, as you read the chapter, all the little cues, all the little musicians playing, all the winks and the nods, and obviously something's going on that Catelyn doesn't understand, but there's this orchestra happening around her. And afterwards, even when you hear about the direwolf's head being sewn on Robb's body, just the contrast between the horror of the massacre, but all these little preparations and the sewing of flesh to flesh was really grotesque to me.
Right, and the combination with just the drums and everything, it does feel some kind of like distorted ritual for sure.
And everything's off key, like the music is playing, but it's all wrong. There's something wrong in the system.
Was I the only one that assumed that the people playing in the band was actually just soldiers? That's why they played so poorly.
Most of them were, yeah. Because I think there were actually some musicians up there, and I think at one point like they switched him out or something a little bit. But Walder has some balls. Like, he just, before they even do anything, he just starts playing it, and I mean that's obviously the signal, but like it doesn't really say anyone else noticed other than Kat. Like before the assault actually started, and that's like, you know, one of the songs in Westeros. And I guess maybe because it's like one of the few songs that we have kind of in the fandom, like it's been on the show a lot, and they did a great job with it. So it's like, it feels like it's just so distinct. Like everyone should have instantly been like, wait, what the hell? You know, it's like if all of a sudden, like, you know, Justin Bieber or something started playing and they were like, whoa, you know, we were just listening to something completely different.
Is this the first time we've heard the lyrics of Reigns of Castamere?
It very well could be, but I cannot say either way. So
No,
I mean, it makes
no,
sense because why would you hear it? Why would the star characters be playing Reigns of Castamere? But it's so creepy as she starts to recite the lines in her head.
Because it's mentioned,
Match with the music.
right?
It is mentioned earlier
in like Jamie chapters
Yeah.
and stuff, but I don't know if any
It's
of the words
mentioned
are
in
ever spoken, right?
Well, no, the Tyrion chapter where they have like the first council meeting with Tywin, they talk about the Reigns of Castamere being like massacred, and like someone wrote a song to go along with
Right,
it, and that
right.
became the Lannister anthem to like rebellious lords. But I think this is the first time they've put lyrics to the song, so there's a nice like you hear about the song in one chapter and then you hear the lyrics in another as the sort of the rebellious massacre comes to fruition in real time.
And King Joffrey just has that shit at repeat at his wedding, like, you know, he's like, tell the DJ, Reigns of Castamere.
top 40 hit.
Yeah.
hey, Mr. DJ.
And one more time, yeah. It's played a lot more in the show though. Like obviously we hear in this chapter, there's a lot more songs actually exist in Westeros.
I do just
what
love
is-
that choice to have the song played. Like, it's so brilliant, just the idea, you know, of auditorily evoking just the shadow of Tywin's hand, you know, over these events. I just love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hear about the figure in the pink gown coming up and stabbing Robb, but I don't know if it's actually, I guess you could guess that it was Bolton afterwards, but a lot of the things aren't clear until later chapters, what actually happened, who played what part. But there's so much such an absence of knowledge in the chapter in which it's actually happening. We don't really put the pieces together until afterwards.
Let's talk about Lord Dustin. Just the offhand mention of him. So he went down to the south with Ned, and Kat mentions that, but she also thinks about him being gaudy and talking about her breasts. I don't know, kind of.
As one does.
It was weird, but also kind of funny. He told Ned that her breast was enough to wish he'd never been weaned, like that.
We also get that line about Jory Cassell tearing her gown off. Come on, Jory.
You're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
how old was he at this time, right? He's like, you know.
I just imagine Ned just like grim-faced till everyone's partying.
And he's just sitting there like, get on with it.
He's got a map out. He's plotting his war strategies. And stuff.
He's reading a book on how to make heirs. It's such a funny custom. I mean, because it's one of those things that it's kind of creepy and awkward regardless. But with the right house and the right family, like, it's probably just kind of playful and silly. And it's like, we're going to sit outside and make sure you're consummating, haha. And with other families, it's like probably like highly offensive, and as like it's the Lord, right? And a lot of these people are kind of under you, and they're like grabbing at your woman, and you're kind of like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. I would just be like, can we skip this shit? Like, this is not cool.
I think isn't Arya 7 before Catelyn 7?
Yes.
Then we do hear the some of the Reigns of Castamere before.
All right.
I think that's the reason why he would have introduced it before, so that we knew that it was connected to Lannisters.
Apparently, this was the last chapter that George wrote for Book 3. Couldn't bring himself to kill the characters, so he put it to the end.
He knew what he was going to do with it, but he just kept putting it off.
Oh, that's like
why
J.K.
Wins is
Rowling.
taking so long, because he keeps putting every chapter at the end.
Yeah, because it's so many massacres in Book 6 that he has to
He's
put
like,
them
I
all
got
to the end.
15 chapters I'm saving for the end.
You said something about J.K. Rowling did the same thing, or what?
I think she did a similar thing. Like, one of her last chapters was that she wrote for Book 7. That was like a big battle scene. But she actually wrote the epilogue to the final book, the first. Like, she had written that years before she had even released the first book.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting process thing to me, especially in the Red Wedding case of having written everything that comes before and comes after before writing the chapter itself. I think that almost maybe makes it better, kind of knowing where it goes to. It gives you that full context to write from.
Yeah, but also it works only in a full chapter, you know. If you were to like jump even more so around, the styles could be muddled, because you can like have moods and slight differences in way to write depending on the day and everything.
Well, when you've been authors as long as we are, and you understand the process.
I just know when I'm a storyteller, a GM in Dungeon Master, things can change. I have ideas in one day and I write them down and start making a story, but when I go back to them later on, I can feel differently about it, or I can just plain and simply forget specifically why I wrote that specific part and maybe muddle up the first idea a little.
I'm sure he has those moments too. I think it's a little different in this case, just because there's so much momentum around this chapter that everything is feeding into it or feeding out of it. That I doubt that there was a ton of shifting in there could have been certainly, but I doubt there was a ton of shifting in the way that he imagined it would go as he wrote.
I mean, that's what editors help with and stuff. But, I mean, you got to imagine there's a lot of stories out there where, someone has a character, they come up with an idea, and they realize they're like, well, I want to get to, like, this is my end game. And, like, they visualize, they have an outline of kind of the whole, like, this is where I want to be at, and they have no idea how to get there.
So, how in love do you think she is with Edmure?
It's so sad because it seems like she saw him and I don't know, she seemed to actually kind of like him, and they got pregnant on the wedding night, and he had the hots for her, and it seems like they actually kind of had a little bit of a connection, but it's so sad because just this whole thing.
Yeah. And she knows, and she knew, I think she did, that would still mean to be bedded, to have your first time while there's a massacre happening outside, and you have to pretend that's at least.
She has no choice.
Yeah, but it's going to be horrible for you, right? It's not a good. It's I'm thinking for her perspective.
It's not an aphrodisiac.
No, she's probably not ready to go.
I don't think that they knew what was happening in the moment. I'm not sure about that, but it certainly doesn't make for a fun morning after for anybody finding out. You walk out of the bedchamber and there's just bodies everywhere. It doesn't.
But why was she crying so much? I mean.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, I guess she does know. Yeah. Wow. Brutal.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that's really, she played her part, but I mean.
Yeah, it's just horrible regardless that she's being used as a pawn in this sort of mass slaughter of an enemy. So.
And it's just made worse because it seems like she actually kind of likes the guy, and then she gets pregnant, and I don't know. I mean, as much as we talk about how much Lord Walder loves his family because he keeps them all around and feeds them and doesn't let them fight with each other too much, he also lets a lot of shit go down. He doesn't give a shit about Jingle Bell. What he does to her here is basically torture.
I don't think he loves his family at all. I think it's all about personal honor. If anything happens to his family. I
mean, why doesn't he kick out all of these fucking moochers in his family and make them go find their own way then? What is it about him keeping all of his family taken care of? Is it
power? He likes everyone sucking up to him.
Yeah, power.
He wants everyone to fight for his approval and try to,
Yeah, he likes having this little fiefdom.
Yeah, he has no individual appreciation for anyone. He just wants he quite literally wants to propagate the Frey name as widely as possible and just increase the numbers and make it go up. He doesn't have any love for any of it. He just wants to be more powerful and bigger and stronger.
Yeah, he's probably learned a few lessons from back when he's a little child and he met Duncan the Tall.
Yep, that was his mentor.
Yeah. He learned all the right lessons
from that.
I do love, though, I mean, it's a little spoiler, but yeah, he shows up as a baby in the Mystery Night, and he's just an asshole in that, even, as a baby. That's just funny.
Isn't he just, dripping snot everywhere?
Yeah, he's a snot-nosed little kid.
I'm don't go stab that baby.
Yeah.
Avert the red wedding.
Time machine. Oh, man.
Yeah, Terminator, go back and kill Walder Frey.
Kill that kid if you want to live.
I wonder if Bran can do that. Go back and kill Walder Frey as a baby. Just lure him to the tree and then flick you off a cliff or something. It could happen.
We can dream at least.
We can green dream.
Mm-hmm. So also, I don't know if you've commented on it too much, but the reason why the Great John is beating all the Freys and drinking is essentially just because they're taking turns getting him drunk.
Right, yeah.
I like that little thing.
Yeah, and they're pretending to drink part of it too, right?
That was, a few of them are actually drunk.
Yeah, because they don't want to really be doing this.
Yeah.
Is it Merritt Frey or who's the epilogue chapter or the?
That's Merritt, yeah.
Yeah, Merritt.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So doesn't he basically say it's like, well, that's all I was good for was like taking my shot against, Great John.
That was his
job. Him up.
That was his role for sure.
Yeah.
He had one job and he did it well.
Got drunk. I mean, that would also be one of my preferred roles in that specific wedding. Pass out on the floor. so I didn't have a part in the actual treason. What would your preferred role be as a Frey or a Frey underling?
Is there a guy who keeps watch on the wall and makes sure everything's going good outside?
I want be one of the people in the kitchen making shitty food. Can I just do that?
Just like the parking valet, yeah.
Look, I need to make sure the battle outside is going well and relay information to the people inside, but I'm just going to send a runner to do that mostly. So I'm just basically going to stay out here and get drunk away from everything.
Well, actually, doesn't the parking valet get killed by the Hound or something? I don't know. In his escape.
Yeah.
There's some
I'll guard this well. After the battle.
So you would stand on the wall, look out. Yep. Still treason.
One of the people responsible for shutting the tents and then running away. I guess on the Frey side, it's crazy. I think in the book they mentioned they had basically no casualties, So kind of whatever part you're in, you mostly do okay. But you certainly don't want to be the part near Grey Wind or in the main room unless you're one of the archers, because then there's a chance that your shit could get fucked up.
Yeah. It just seems like if you have any sort of moral code or anything, this would just seem so dirty, right? Unless it's really your mind really been turned to the notion that this is the best thing to do because of your slight to your house or whatever. It seems really, but it's probably also because the way we read it, we sympathize with the Starks. Well, but we assume that someone else will also do that, right?
Yeah, but it's not just that they betrayed them, it's that they did it in the most sneaky way possible. They abused guests, right? They took their weapons off them, they got them drunk, they made them feel safe, they set them apart, they rigged the tents to collapse. If they were honorable, they would have fought them in the field, but they pretended they were friends.
They know they couldn't do that. And I mean, even if it was just something where they killed Robb in secret, they got him to a meeting and killed him and a few of his guys, but this whole big elaborate thing where they take out a huge part of his army and they take out a bunch of Northern Lords and children of Northern Lords, and it's this big thing. It wasn't just about Robb. They really went to the mattresses, so to speak, but the only reason they were able to do that is because of Guest, right? Because this is unconscionable before this point. No one would do this except Hillbilly Frey.
And now they might be the Lords of Riverrun, but their name is Mud. Everyone hates them. No one trusts them. No one will do business with them unless they have to. And it's not just that they've turned everyone against the Freys and done this horrible thing. It's that they've ruined the idea of guest right. Now, no one's safe to go and have dinner in someone else's.
Right.
Because who knows, another red wedding may happen.
Because even all of these other houses, all these other houses that are super honorable, the moment you're, 10 years from now, even maybe, unless they all kind of get together and somehow reassert this as making a point of blood enemies, honoring this again. It's not safe anymore.
Whenever an enemy invites you to the table to negotiate, you'll always pause and think, but what about the red wedding?
Yeah. We know if there's any historical examples of guest rights being broken.
In Westeros?
In Westeros. Who cares about real life? Doesn't matter.
Okay, because I would say
it's based on a real life thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. George has said that almost all of the big events that happen has been in real history as well, and even worse.
It's the Scottish clans. Wasn't it the Black Feast?
Yeah, the Black Feast,
And that was the symbol of death, and then they started massacring.
And I know that Mel Gibson survived that one.
I can't think of any other Westerosi examples, though, but I'm sure there would be somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. The only thing I can think of that's remotely comparable is the rat cook, kind of. Just abusing that sort of trust at home. And
Or, like, what about the Dornish when I guess they didn't really invite him, but when that Tyrell Lord went and they, like, unleashed scorpions on him while he was sleeping?
Oh, yeah. That's
Kind of.
But
yeah,
it's
kind of like,
it's more than it's more of a first men thing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But then again, the Dornish also have
Yes,
first men down there, so
But the influence of the First Men is stronger in the north than the south.
yeah. But isn't the Rat King specifically about guest right?
I think it is what set up sort of the boogeyman notion of it, or the idea that if you violate guest rights, that you'll be punished by the gods or by something.
Right.
The Rat King will eat you.
Was it Jojen that was telling the story? But he basically says the god didn't punish the rat cook because he took vengeance. He had a right to take vengeance. It was that he broke guest rights. So that's portending the
it's
eventual
all
fate of.
I mean, because that was last book, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he
like
foreshadows.
he had this coming for a while.
Yeah, he foreshadows all over the place.
So do you guys? I mean, the interesting thing, right, is that
No. That was book 3, the rat cook.
yeah, I think it was.
That was
as well.
when they go to the Night Fort.
Yeah, it's when they're coming back.
So it's actually
it's
actually after the Red Wedding.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry, Zach.
Oh, I just think that the management of that is interesting, because you would then assume then that there are consequences, right? I mean, do you guys believe that there are really like genuine consequences to violating guest right? It seems like the way the book is going between Lady Stoneheart and, of course, the stuff that Wyman Manderley does, that there are indeed consequences to an act this heinous. You know, we were kind of bred with this expectation in the books that bad people don't receive consequences, but it doesn't. It seems like the guest right thing is so vital that it is indeed something that may even be punished by some kind of godly figure, given that Catelyn was resurrected.
Yeah, and it feels like one of the few things they have in this world where like lords are just fighting with each other all the time and things kind of chaos. It's like one of the few constants
that
still allows
sacred,
them to actually be civilized.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there is some sort of my inclination is to say no, but if there is some sort of supernatural consequence to this with Lady Stoneheart, if like there was some specific destiny or correspondence of cause that led to Lady Stoneheart existing.
I guess you could interpret Lady Stoneheart as the supernatural response to the breaking of guest right. They've resurrected this figure to punish the phrase.
Maybe, but I think that more so the whole notion of R'hllor's resurrection is that you get everything of your person gets burned away until you're only the notion, the purest thing of your
last impulse.
Yeah, because Beric Dondarrion tries at least to be the paragon of justice, right? So to say, he wants justice for all the small folk and everything, and that's his main thing all the way through, even when he loses stuff of himself. But Catelyn becomes the paragon of revenge.
Right. That's the last thing that she felt, was that overwhelming madness and feeling of revenge before she died. So it not only is her humanity stripped by that occurrence, the resurrection, but she also was predisposed to that kind of behavior.
Yeah. But
and like Beric, she's sort of like a ghost, sort of reliving her last moments, and they're both fighting for these dead kings. So Beric went off to fight this battle for Robert, and he died, and he keeps trying to fight the same battle. It's kind of like Catelyn, just she's trying to avenge this dead king, but like you lose the actual purpose of why you're doing it. You just do it on impulse, like a ghost reenacting its final moments.
And I guess if you want to talk about karma and repercussions for bad deeds, I guess they both are each their own side of the coin of essentially justice or revenge, is both equal parts of karma. So,
and like the idea that Beric is doing justice becomes less and less credible, because we don't know where what he's fighting on behalf of or what law he abides by, because the Brotherhood just kind of falls apart. And I guess it is, the Brotherhood is Beric and Stoneheart being pulled between those two forces.
Yeah.
And we see the same thing with Catelyn, where it seems like she's not just taking this vengeance out on the phrase, but people that really don't deserve it, like Brienne and Jaime.
And I guess it's a symptom of this collapse of law and order in Westeros. Beric fought on behalf of the rule of law, but now that the Riverlands is just this basin of like misery and thievery and murder, Stoneheart is the one that rises out, because she doesn't obey the law. She just kills. She becomes the environment that she exists in.
she becomes a warlord, a person that by sheer numbers, by power of arms, gets power where none should be had.
Yeah. I was actually, when the epilogue happened and we saw Stoneheart, I was really excited because I was like so hell-bent on the Freys and the Lannisters and the Boltons getting what they deserved. But it's interesting the way Martin subverts that in book 4 when you see what a horrible creature she is and how she's just like killing indiscriminately.
Yeah. It's really poisoned.
It's like,
you can't take any joy out of it. Maybe some from Frey's die.
Sure. Yeah.
And especially in that epilogue, because Merritt Frey doesn't seem like a terrible guy. He has issues, but he doesn't seem like he doesn't have that evil feeling to him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe he would have been one of the ones to spare, or one of the ones that wouldn't have done it otherwise.
But Lady Stoneheart don't care about that.
No. And the cycle continues.
Mm-hmm.
An eye for an eye.